US President Donald Trump today finally revealed his cunning plan to supposedly withdraw American troops from Europe. While some in Europe are panicking about this, others, on the contrary, see it as an opportunity. After Trump's decision to withdraw troops from Germany, America's European allies are predicting a new decision by President Trump regarding American troops in Europe. Among the possible scenarios is a reduction of the military contingent in Italy and Spain. But in Poland, as expected, they announced that they are ready to host those US troops that will be leaving these countries. And Trump stated that he welcomes such an idea. This is something we have already talked about before. At the same time, Trump is once again pressuring Europe with the topic of trade tariffs and has brought up the issue of taking over Greenland again, which seemed to have faded into the background. My name is Alexi Pichi. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like this episode, and don't forget to leave your comment under this video. This really helps a lot in promoting the content on YouTube, and I would be grateful to you for that. And subscribe to my Telegram channel Pichi News, the link to it is in the description of this video. So, according to Bloomberg, the European allies of the US are predicting a new decision by President Donald Trump regarding American troops in Europe. Among the possible scenarios is a reduction of contingents in Italy and Spain. According to sources cited by the publication, NATO countries expect a further review of the American military presence after Trump's decision to withdraw 5,000 troops from Germany. In addition, the Trump administration may abandon the plan, approved during Joe Biden's presidency, to deploy long-range missiles in Germany. Речь идет о размещении ракет Tomahawk missiles aimed at Moscow, which Joe Biden announced in his 2024 decision against the backdrop of Vladimir Putin transferring tactical nuclear missiles to Belarus. And according to Bloomberg, NATO is also discussing other possible scenarios. In particular, reducing US participation in military exercises in Europe and redeploying some forces from countries that Washington considers less loyal to allies that are closer to the current presidential administration. And this is where things start to get really interesting. And if you've been subscribed to this YouTube channel for a long time, you already know the confidential part of the US plan to redeploy troops within Europe. And just a week or two ago, I said that the news about Trump withdrawing troops from Germany shouldn't cause us to panic. On the contrary, this is actually a very good step because these troops are being moved from Germany to the eastern flank. Among the countries that may receive additional American presence, Poland is mentioned. Warsaw has repeatedly stated its readiness to host more US troops and even nuclear weapons. The Pentagon so far refuses to comment on this Bloomberg report, and the White House has referred journalists to statements by US Secretary of State Mark Rubio. And Mark Rubio, after his visit to Italy, made the following statement. If one of the main reasons why the US is in NATO is the troops deployed in Europe, which we could have redirected to other emergencies, but now that's no longer the case. At least as far as some NATO members are concerned, this is a problem and it needs to be addressed. Well, right now there are about 85,000 American troops stationed in Europe. And despite the concerns of the allies, some NATO diplomats believe that Trump's ability to significantly reduce the troops may be limited by the US Congress and Washington's strategic interests in Europe. The point is that Congress passed a law at the end of last year and Trump signed it, which states that no one in the United States of America, including the president, has the right to reduce the number of US troops in Europe below the threshold of 76,000 soldiers, so the maximum Trump can operate with is 9,000 soldiers. But, as it turned out, 5,000 US Army soldiers from Germany will not go back home to America. No. Poland has announced its readiness to accept additional American troops after the US president did not rule out their possible redeployment from Germany. Polish Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz said that Warsaw is ready to strengthen NATO's eastern flank by increasing the presence of American troops. According to the minister, the alliance between Poland and the United States remains the cornerstone of the country's security. And here's what's significant. The statement from the Polish side came just a few hours after Donald Trump spoke near the White House. The American president, answering questions from journalists, did not rule out relocating US troops to Poland, or he said to other countries on NATO's eastern flank. And now I remind you that we have already discussed this topic on this YouTube channel. I said that the idea is to withdraw American troops from Western European countries and redeploy them to Eastern European countries. Because no matter what, it was the Eastern European countries, even if only rhetorically, that supported Trump in his war in the Middle East. For us, this is great news because American troops on the eastern flank will end up being closer to belligerent Russia. Donald Trump also spoke positively about the president of Poland, Karol Nawrocki, who had previously been supported by his administration. Quote, "I have a great relationship with Poland. I have a great relationship with the president. I supported him and he won. He's a wonderful fighter. He's a wonderful person. I like him very much." So it's possible, the redeployment of troops. There are currently about 10,000 American troops stationed in Poland. And against the backdrop of the Russian Federation's war against Ukraine and the increased Russian military presence in Belarus, Warsaw is actively ramping up defense spending. That's why US troops will be redeployed to Poland. So this will only be a problem for Western European allies, but for the eastern flank it's actually even better. The US Army will be closer to Russia, which is the one threatening Europe with war. Nevertheless, Trump himself, of course, continues his aggression against Europe. The governor of Louisiana, and at the same time Donald Trump's special representative for Greenland, will make his first visit to the Danish island. Therefore, the topic of the occupation of Greenland has become relevant again. The visit is expected at the end of May, and now Landry plans to attend the future Greenland Business Conference in the capital Nuuk to try to persuade local businesses, of course, to fully turn toward the United States of America. In other words, they decided, to engage in a kind of economic expansion. At the same time, let me remind you that at the beginning of this year, Trump announced the introduction of tariffs against 8 European countries in order to achieve US control over Greenland. However, after the collapse of global markets, Trump quickly abandoned this threat, but now he has returned to it again. What does this mean? Earlier, US President Donald Trump gave the European Union until July 4th to ratify a bilateral trade agreement, threatening to significantly increase tariffs otherwise. But the whole problem is that inside the United States of America, one after another, Trump's decisions on tariffs are being recognized as illegal in the courts. And the ratification of the trade agreement itself in European capitals became highly uncertain because it was preliminarily signed between Ursula von der Leyen and Trump. And now each national government is saying it doesn't really suit us, so there's definitely something to keep an eye on here. I'll leave it at that for now. And right away, I want to tell the Ukrainian-speaking audience of this YouTube channel that I have a new YouTube channel, where every evening I post a summary of the day exclusively in Ukrainian and with a focus on Ukrainian topics. So if you prefer to listen to the news more in Ukrainian, I'll leave a link in the description of this video to the new YouTube channel Oleksii Piki and Pitsumki. Subscribe and support the new YouTube channel. Also, leave your comments, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like the video. And if you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video or via the QR code on your screens. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.